There's a version of you that shows up when no one's watching. The way you react when someone cuts you off in traffic. The way you respond when a friend disagrees with you. The way you talk about people who aren't in the room. Psychologists say intelligence isn't really about test scores or vocabulary. It's about small, almost invisible patterns. Today, we're going to walk through 7 of them, quietly and honestly. Not to judge anyone, not even to judge you. But because once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And some of them might be closer to home than you think. Meet Daniel. Smart guy. On paper. Good job. Sharp memory. Wins every argument at the dinner table. But his co-workers quietly avoid sitting near him in meetings. His girlfriend stopped bringing up certain topics months ago. Not because Daniel is unkind, he's not. It's something quieter than that. When someone challenges his opinion, his jaw tightens before his mouth even opens. When he's wrong, he doesn't say, "I didn't know that." He says, "Well, technically." When a conversation gets complicated, he changes the subject, smoothly, like it's nothing. Daniel isn't unintelligent, not in the way we usually think. But there's a different kind of intelligence he's missing, and it's costing him more than he realizes. Here's the thing psychologists have found, again and again. Raw intelligence, facts, logic, memory, is only one piece of the puzzle. The deeper marker is something called cognitive flexibility. It's your brain's ability to sit with discomfort, to hold 2 conflicting ideas at once, to say, "I don't know" without it feeling like defeat. People with lower cognitive flexibility often look confident, but underneath, their mind is doing something simple, closing doors quickly, so it doesn't have to stay in uncertainty. Certainty feels safe. Growth feels dangerous. And that single difference shapes almost everything else. So let's go through the 7 signs, not as insults, but as mirrors. The first is that they mistake confidence for correctness. They don't ask, "Is this true?" They ask, "Does this feel true?" And if it feels true, the search stops there. The second is that they can't tolerate being wrong in front of others, not because they are arrogant, but because being wrong feels like being unsafe, so instead of learning, they defend. The third is that they oversimplify things that are actually complex, because nuance takes energy, so the mind reaches for the easiest explanation, even when the easiest explanation isn't the true one. The fourth is that they talk more than they listen, not out of ego necessarily, but out of anxiety, because silence feels like losing control of the room. The fifth is that they react instead of reflect. A comment lands, and the response is instant, no pause, no "let me think about that," just impulse dressed up as instinct. The sixth is that they surround themselves with agreement, not because they're shallow, but because disagreement feels like a threat instead of a gift, so the circle gets smaller and smaller. And the seventh is that they rarely say, "I don't know," 3 simple words that, for some people, feel like admitting they're not enough. Take a breath here, because if even one of these stung a little, that's not a bad sign. That's actually a good one. Here's what almost nobody tells you. These 7 signs aren't really about intelligence. They're about fear, fear of being wrong, fear of being small, fear of not being enough in a world that rewards looking certain. The people who struggle with these patterns aren't broken. They're just protecting a version of themselves that once got hurt for not knowing the answer. Somewhere, in a classroom, or in a parent's disappointment, or in a room where they felt laughed at, a decision got made: "I will never look unsure again." And that decision, made to protect them, is the very thing quietly holding them back. Here's the twist. The smartest people you'll ever meet say, "I don't know" more than anyone else in the room. They change their minds in public. They ask questions that make them look, for a second, less impressive. Because real intelligence was never about looking certain. It was always about staying curious, even when it costs your ego something. Daniel, from earlier, didn't change because someone told him he was wrong. He changed the day he asked one question out loud: "What if I'm the reason people go quiet around me?" That question was the first sign of real growth. So if any of these 7 signs felt familiar tonight, good. That discomfort you're feeling right now isn't weakness. That's your mind doing the one thing insecurity never lets it do: look at itself honestly. Growth doesn't start with being right. It starts with being willing to be wrong, out loud, in front of people, without falling apart. So the next time you don't know something, say it. I don't know. It might just be the smartest sentence you ever speak.